Hi everyone! Welcome to ArtStoryLab. My name is Hejin. For the 10th episode of ArtStoryLab, I am thrilled to welcome our very first special guest. Yay! She's our in-house expert on kisses and belly rubs and a dedicated cataloger of neighborhood botany. She was recently featured in this beautiful watercolor portrait painted by my dear friend Esther, wherein she elegantly demonstrates her signature pose, the sploot. Please welcome Baby. Thank you so much for coming to ArtStoryLab, Baby. How do you feel about being my very first special guest? I've invited Baby here to the studio because in this story, we're going to talk about lap dogs as ladies' best friends in 18th century European art. As with many things we've discussed in this channel, the practice of keeping pets as we know them became established in European culture in the 1700s. Sure, people certainly lived with domestic animals before then, but the idea of animals living with people under the same roof as intimate companions took root in 18th century middle and upper class society. And among animals adored by affluent, leisured people, including cats, birds, and monkeys, dogs were the most popular choice for companion animals. Before the 1700s, dogs appeared in portraits mostly alongside men, but from the middle decades of the 18th century, they began to be depicted more frequently with women. Along with this change came the new gendering of the types of dogs. While men preferred to be depicted with bigger dogs bred for function, such as the pointers included in this double portrait of a British sportsman and his son, women were almost always portrayed with their beloved lap dogs. Of course, exceptions existed, such as this gentleman posing with his toy dog. But small dogs, namely spaniels, pugs, bichons, and maltese, became so closely associated with femininity that social commentators looked down upon young men who were out walking in the streets with their lap dogs, calling them stupid simpletons. The fact that these small dogs bred for women's companionship is seen to advantage in the illustrations of different dog breeds in the Compendium of Natural Knowledge compiled by the great naturalist the Comte de Buffon. In his encyclopedic natural history, Buffon included images of different canine breeds in their respective habitats. Here, a guard dog is depicted outside a gate in front of a wagon and a well, indicating its status as a working dog, while a pointer stands in the park-like domain of a chateau, awaiting its next hunting expedition. Meanwhile, these two spaniels are on top of beds with rich drapery. And Baby's ancestor, the bichon, stands on a lady's makeup table next to a small box and a mirror. Bred explicitly for ladies' pleasure, lap dogs were greatly admired as individual living beings with their own emotional intelligence. Through intimate connections they shared with their canine companions, people came to believe that animals too have feelings, thoughts, and indeed souls. They began to celebrate their beloved animals as individual beings, and some royal pets were given their own share of the spotlight and glamour treatment in pet portraits. Such was the case for Mice and Lutine, two of the many hunting dogs cherished by the French king Louis XV. The king, who was an avid hunter, so loved his hunting dogs that he commissioned Jean-Baptiste Audry, the celebrated animal painter, to preserve their likeness in paint. Their physical traits carefully delineated and their names beautifully labeled in gold, these dogs were surely treasured possessions of the monarch for their individual temperament and physical characteristics. Louis XV's legendary mistress, the Marquise de Pompadour, had her two toy dogs named Mimi and Ines portrayed and engraved. She frequently included them in her portraits as extensions of her public identity, as my friend Joanna Goman has explained in her dissertation. Aristocrats and wealthy bourgeois showered their little dogs with affection and pampered them to no end. Dogs had their own luxurious kennels in opulent homes in the form of an alcove, a dome, an aviary, a miniature theater, and even a chateau with a fountain. And this dog kennel, sumptuously upholstered in velvet with gilt wood frame, takes the cake in my opinion. I mean, I wish my house looked like this. Pampered dogs also wore fancy collars, such as this one with bells that mimic the puppy's brilliant round eyes and the blue ribbon that matches the gorgeous outfit of this little girl, or this golden collar indicating the doggie's name. As ladies' best friends, dogs traditionally represented fidelity and loyalty. As I mentioned in the episode on Fragonard's The Happy Hazards of the Swing, the personification of fidelity in European artistic tradition is usually accompanied by a dog. Did you know that the word Fido, a generic name for a pet dog, shares the same Latin root as the word fidelity? But beyond loyalty, dogs' meanings in art were multiple and by no means fixed. That was precisely my point about the little white dog in this picture. The story that the picture tells has many possibilities, and so does the little pooch's part in it. In 18th century European visual world, ladies' lapdogs were not only fashionable accessories, but also figures standing in for the presumably male lover that is missing in the scene. For example, in this print, a spaniel sits on a bench as it watches its beautiful mistress carve 2 initials on a tree. The letter below the bench indicates that it may be from the girl's absent lover, in whose stead the dog loyally keeps her company as she longs for him. Little doggies also serve as important signposts to the narratives that the pictures spin. For example, in this scene featuring a couple in a sumptuous interior, a man is on his knee and lunging forward with his hand on his heart to confess his feelings to the lady. The small lapdog, presumably belonging to her, stands on its hind legs and puts its front paws up on her dress, mimicking the pleading gesture of the man and bringing our attention to the scene of declaration of love. Next, let's take a look at a print with a lady taking a bath with a spaniel rushing into the room. Carrying a tray of hot chocolate, the maid announces to the bathing lady that her letter has arrived and asks, "Would you like the letter or the chocolate first?" And judging from the little dog's rushed look, we can surmise that she'd choose the letter, as it seems to carry long-anticipated news. And in what I think is the funniest one yet, titled The Unexpected Visit, a man and a woman engage in a push and pull motion in a well-appointed room. The disheveled man with his open shirt and nightgown is restraining the finely dressed woman who's just come in from outside, that's her purse dangling from her wrist, and tries to walk past him. While the couple struggles, her puppy is barking at the dress caught in the door, its body tense and its tail pointed downward to communicate its alertness. The dog's body is like a big arrow to the side chick hiding behind the door, who'd just been interrupted during her naughty time with the cheating man. In her sudden unannounced visit at 11:30 at night, the struggling lady pushes the man aside and points her fan towards the trailing fabric as she seems to have just discovered that there's another woman in the room! The dog lets the unexpected visitor and us, the viewer, of what's happening in the room with its position and body language. By bringing our attention to these hidden elements that we may easily miss, painted dogs help us understand what's going on in pictures. So next time you look at images with dogs in them, pay attention to what they're doing and what they're looking at, because you might just unlock the stories that they're pointing to. As treasured companions to women and sometimes men, little dogs were integral parts in the lives of middle and upper-class Europeans in the 18th century. And these portraits, in which human sitters uncannily resemble their canine BFFs, are testament to the deep affection shared across the boundaries of species. I'd certainly like to think that Baby and I look alike. Do you think so? Do you think we look alike, Baby? What do you think? That's it for this episode. Thank you for watching. See you next time on ArtStoryLab. Bye! Baby, you did a good job. High five! No? Baby, high five! High five! Oh. Baby, high five! High five! Yay!